From the IRS scandal to calls for the Attorney General's resignation to the immigration reform battle. We spoke with New Mexico Governor Susana Martinez about all of it. Right now we have this IRS scandal going on, which I'm sure you're aware of, and your thought about the IRS being accused of targeting the Tea Party.
You know, it's really unfortunate because the American people should have confidence in their government. And right now, when you know that the IRS, an agency that has that kind of power to be targeting individuals or organizations simply because of their beliefs, it really does take away the faith and confidence that they are doing the right thing for the right reason. And so it's really disappointing to see that they're targeting any organization. They should treat people fairly across the board without any political influence whatsoever.
In your prior life, you were a prosecutor, you were the your thoughts on what's going on with a lot of people are calling for, at least a lot of Republicans are calling for the resignation of the Attorney General.
You know, I think we need to have our answers from the Attorney General. I think first and foremost, he needs to answer the tough questions, and he needs to answer them honestly. He needs to let the American people know where the failures have occurred so that those can get fixed, because I don't think that simply resigning and then getting away from the problem and us and the American people not finding out what happened so it doesn't happen again and so people are held accountable, that needs to take place first.
Are we getting straight answers from the Attorney General? Is he answering all the questions completely?
It doesn't, I don't know. I don't know if he is or isn't. It doesn't appear as though we're getting the full story.
Immigration reform, that is quite, I mean, of course, immigration is important to your home state. Actually, it's important to every state. Your thought on what the Gang of Eight has proposed or how it's meandering through Congress?
You know, I certainly believe that there are several solutions to the immigration question and not just one single answer. But we absolutely have to secure the border first. The border has to be secured in order to prevent that continuous flow of people that are coming through the border illegally. However, one thing we've got to remember is the border doesn't just allow people from Mexico to come through. They come from all over the world through that border that is between the United States and Mexico. I do think that people such as children that came here without a say-so certainly should be treated a little differently than someone who made a decision to break the law and to come to the United States. But also we want to encourage immigration. We want to bring people here who can stay here, go to our universities, remain in our universities, and stay in the United States even after they've completed their education.
So are you in favor of the proposal where there'd be some sort of path of citizenship for the 11 million or 12 million who are here illegally, or what would you suggest?
I believe that we should have a pathway to legal status. And
what's the difference? Explain that.
Well, I think when you have a pathway to citizenship, you end up disrespecting the people in line and have been in line and have been doing all the right things according to our laws to become a citizen, and the pathway to citizenship allows those people to jump in front of the line of those that have done everything correctly. I think to have legal status allows those individuals to be here legally, not be in the shadows, attend our schools and have a job and pay their taxes and do all the things that they should, just like an American does. However, if a citizenship is their desire, then they should get at the end of the line.
I suppose that you're doing somewhat of a, I don't know if victory dance is the right word to describe, but the Supreme Court yesterday upheld 5-4 the decision allowing, actually they reversed the Maryland court of the highest court, and now they've allowed it so that law enforcement can take DNA swabs when someone has been arrested but not convicted, because that goes back to a case you handled back in 2003 or 4.
That's right. That's right. Katie Seppage was a young college student, 22 years old, and she was raped, kidnapped, and murdered and then dumped into a dump site and put on fire, trying to get rid of the evidence. And she actually had DNA under her fingernails. But when they took the DNA and uploaded the DNA to the national database, they couldn't find a match. And so not until several years later, the person who killed her actually was convicted of a felony, but he was convicted. At that time, they took his DNA and found a match. 3 years of agony for that family before determining who was responsible for killing her.
Did he commit a crime, do you know, in that 3-year period, because that would also have have some weight to
and
this.
See, it would be had he been arrested, and that's how the laws changed. Now, upon arrest of any felony in New Mexico, you have a DNA swab taken. It's a simple swabbing with a Q-tip of the inside of your cheek and placed into a box, and we only take 13 markers of your DNA. A person has millions of them. We only take 13, upload that on the national database, and then it matches up to any prior crimes that you've committed. that has gone unsolved.
You go from prosecuting or handling a case, and it turns out you're eventually the governor who signs the law, which would have enabled a very different result earlier.
Absolutely. It is. I actually even testified at the hearing in front of the committee because it was my case. I understood it well. I understood how non-invasive the procedure was. It's really a fingerprint of the 21st century. We have been taking fingerprints and photographs for a very long time. So now as governor, to be able to be a part of making sure that we're holding people accountable or exonerating people.
Well, the argument against it was that the difference between fingerprints, that fingerprints is a way to make sure that you have the right identity of the person you have in custody, whereas this is an investigative tool to try to track the person down to other crimes.
Well, it's also a marker for identifying the person that's responsible, because you can also issue a warrant with just DNA markers. You don't have to wait to know who it belongs to. You can actually issue warrants with just plain old DNA markers so that you can preserve the statute of limitations. And so it is a way of identifying the person who's responsible as well.